Okay. Now, a full and frank discussion in the privacy of my study would seem to be in order. But I think our conversation would be more meaningful were you to first gain a firmer grasp on the situation here. To that end, I would like you to visit a few of the Crystarium's civic leaders, and glean something of this world and its predicament. As you can see, this path will take you directly to the Aetheryte, a convenience with which I am sure you are only too familiar. Being the right object for my summoning spell, you should in theory be able to reach all the way back along your etheric trail and find a connection in the source, believe it or not. So I can use Aetherites to travel back to my world? I strongly suggest you complete this attunement before venturing any further. So, because I'll be stuck. After you've done so, walk up the steps next to the Aetherite and head out to the left to arrive at the Crystalline Mean. This is where you'll find our collective of crafters and gatherers, as well as their spokeswoman, Catless, one of the people I should like you to meet. Scally. Another is Morin. To reach him and his Cabinet of Curiosity, quote, you'll want to avoid the aforementioned steps and take the exit on the left, and simply continue straight along and down until you've come to the large doors at the end of the path. I'm losing my voice. The third and final person I would like you to meet is Bragi. I think is how you say it. Our man in charge of trade and distribution. He is to be found in the markets, which you can access from the opposite side of the Aetherite Plaza. Okay. In seeking out each of my colleagues, you will visit the major districts, and hopefully gain a feel of the place. I trust my descriptions were simple enough. Crystal clear. Ah, missed opportunity. You're supposed to say Mother Crystal Clear. To the right and where now? Ha! Very good. I can see the layout of the Crystarium owes more to the historic necessity than planning. But I'm sure you will learn its twists and turns before long. In all honesty, the true challenge may be in finding the right way to approach its citizens. As you discovered during your encounter with the captain, the people of this world are unaware of the existence of other stars, and will struggle to accept the truth of your origin. That being the case, when they ask you whence you hail, as they inevitably will, I suggest you claim to share a homeland with the crystal. There's an unspoken rule here about peering too deeply into that particular mystery. When you finish making your rounds, pray meet me in the large courtyard at the center of the town. Until then. Okay. Okay. This place is cool. Alright, let's attune to the Aetherite so I don't get myself stranded out of this expansion. There's got to be a way back, but I don't feel like figuring out what it is. Alright, sweet. By focusing your senses, you detected the flow of vastly distant currents of aether. Your connection to these energies is faint but stable, and should allow teleportation by Aetherite in the source. So I can travel to other stars now, other realms, other dimensions. Interesting. Wear your shorts weather. Yes, you are quite northwest of me. Rare to see a place so well stocked with goods, isn't it? But not here. Hi, Catless. I'm going to guess that you're new to our fair city. Well, for what it's worth, you've chosen a fine sanctuary. The Exarch can throw up a barrier if the Sin Eaters come knocking, so it's a damn sight safer in here than out there. Safer and more civilized too, thanks to us, the mean. We work together to procure materials and resources and craft the goods which make the city life possible. This is the place to visit if you need a coat mended or a kettle forged. Just don't go thinking it'll all be handed to you on a plate like some of those... Ulmoran? Ulmoran? Some of those Ulmoran layabouts. Here in the Crystarium, we work for a living. Okay. Though I see you're no stranger to honest labor. You don't have that whiff of indolence about you like some of the folks I've met. Still, I can't quite pin down your profession. Where is it you're from? One of the Exarch countrymen, you say? I see. Well then, I'll work twice as hard to make you feel welcome. Our city wouldn't even exist if it weren't for him, and any friend of his is a friend of ours. Interesting. It's really quite incredible when you think about it. They say his grand magic summoned the crystal into existence, pulled the entire thing out of the thin air. Oh, interesting. That's how it got here. And it wasn't long before droves of refugees began congregating around its base, desperate for shelter after losing their homes to the flood. And that's how the Crystarium began. At the Exarch's invitation, buildings started going up, and with the help of some curious relics brought forth from the tower, the place gradually expanded into a thriving metropolis you see today. The city stood here for decades now, yet the eldest among us swear the Exarch looks exactly the same as he did back then. He is indeed a man of many mysteries, but for all the secrecy, he has never yet let us down. So if he, and you, wish to remain silent about your shared homeland, then the folks here will respect your wish for privacy. I am, however, more than a little curious to see any crafting talent you might be hiding. I don't have any. If you've ought to contribute on that front, be sure to come back and visit once you've had a chance to settle in. I can teach you hand-to-hand combat. Ask for Catless, and I'll find you in a niche here in the Crystalline Mean. You can help us keep the cogs in the city greased and turning. You exchange with Catless has taught you about the life in the Crystarium. Of course it's at the tippy top. Why don't I just trust my gut? I knew it was going to be up at the top. Excuse me, sir. Are you recently come to the city, perchance? I am quite familiar with our civic roles, you see, and, interesting. Well, what I mean to ask is, have you brought any books with you? A rumpled scroll even? A scrap of scribed-on parchment? This guy really likes books. My apologies. Literature is something of an obsession of mine, as well as a profession. Librarian Morin at your... Morin, right? Yeah, Morin. At your service, and this humble collection is known as the Cabinet of Curiosity. Interesting. I guess in like a post-apocalyptic world, knowledge is an important resource. As your powers of perception have likely informed you, my colleagues and I are responsible for curating all manner of tomes, documents, and other vehicles from the written world. As horrific as the loss of life and land wrought by the flood unquestionably was, the damage to recorded knowledge was no less catastrophic. We few do what we can to preserve what wisdom survived, like I was saying. But tell me, what brings you to the cabinet today? Looking for any title in particular? Mayhaps a spot of academic research? Oh, so you've an interest in modern history. Splendid! A thorough review of recent events can often yield novel perspectives. I quite agree. If you would prefer something visual to accompany the account, then I think I have an illustrated an illustrated handbook for children somewhere. Give it to me, let's go. Just a moment and I'll fetch it for you. And here we are. Would you mind pulling up a chair? Make yourself more comfortable. On with the lesson then. Okay. Let me see this children's book. 100 years ago, or near enough not to matter. Nice. Villains known as the Warrior of Light, what? Slew the Shadow Keeper, the Steward of Darkness. This is gonna be one of those where everything was out of balance. Oh yeah, because we talked about this with the Warrior of Darkness when he came to our world. Isn't this his world? I mean, I had thought about that, but things are starting to compile. In the wake of this tainted deed, light began to pour into the world as if from unseen cracks. It pooled and swelled without cease until the day an enormous, blinding wave rose up and swept across our star. We called this calamity the Flood of Light. Everything it touched was leached of life and vigor, leaving naught behind but an illuminous wasteland. It is okay, so it is. It is. Alright, so we're all on the same page then. Yet, just as it seemed that all would be lost, a savior appeared before us. The Oracle of Light, Minfilia. She stood twixt us and the approaching doom, and by her power did she stay the flood. Thus was Norvant, and Norvant alone spared the fate of Eraser. I like the children's book. Tragedy would, however, arrive in another form. From the blasted emptiness descended horrors of strange and terrible aspect to bedevil the few folk who survived. These sin-eaters were light incarnate, and their fulgent presence stole the night from the northern sky. Even now, they circle the remaining bastions of civilization, ever on the hunt for us, ever hungering for our flesh. Yeah, they ate my buddy! And thus did the world become what it is. Should you ever wish to hear the tale again, I would be glad to retell it for you. Okay. Or, if you would rather I speak of matters, that too would be my pleasure. I should be glad of the company. Your exchange with Morin has taught you about the Flood of Light. Okay. Interesting. Alright, let's do this. New to the city, friend. The spinning head and wide eyes give you away. Hello. Hey, you're my first forgotten NPC. Welcome. My name is Bragi, and I'm the master of these markets. They gave this district another official title, but I'm not in the habit of using it. Too florid by half. In any case, our merchants stock a range of equipment from Humes such as yourself. Humes. So finding something in your size shouldn't be a problem. I'm sorry, did you say Humes? I'm actually a hearer. Aye. Something wrong? Like a human? Let's see if we can straighten this out. See those two in front of us? The shorter one is a Hume, like you. The taller one is an elf. Ah! So they completely changed their names. The sturdy one over there is a Galgent. Interesting. And the one with the horns is a Dran. And then you have the large, scaly chap with his long tail and knacks for raising livestock. Those would be the Zun, which is apparently not the name you know them by. Now I'm curious to know which far-flung region you hail from. Ah, the same as the Exarch, eh? Well, that explains it. You don't get much further flung than that. We've had a few of your lot pass through in recent years, but despite their obvious learning, they floundered over the simplest things. But not to worry. Should you find yourself confused by the local language or customs, I'll be here to answer your questions. Alright, your exchange with Bragi has taught you about the people of the First. Interesting. Well, how did you fare? Did my colleagues help you form a clearer picture of this world and its people? I was taking notes, apparently. Yes, it seems you were treated to a most thorough introduction. I understand it was something of a chore, but 'twas necessary for you to grasp the things before we proceed. As for the Crystal Tower's origin, you may have noted that the details were sparse. The structure is, in fact, the selfsame one that you know from the source, transported to the First in its entirety. What? So it's not in my world anymore? It was my first attempt at breaching the boundaries between worlds, something of a trial run for your eventual crossing. And although I do not know which era I tore it from, I do know that its arrival served to set the wheels of fate in motion. Sweet.